How's it going, guys? This is Novakast back with another video, and unless something big happens, I want to lay this to rest. And as you guys know, especially for a lot of people who have asked me to try to go back into doing drama videos or want me to talk about people like Canine Aversion and so on, at this point, as I've said before, I want to stay out of drama. But to an extent, if something comes up when it comes down to people I've discussed, I will kind of briefly talk about it. And I figured with this video, give my quick thoughts on the absence of Onision. Now, it's been a long while since I've talked about Onision, whether it be on my personal videos or if anything on the podcast, which, by the way, we've changed that up where we're playing video games every week. But to an extent, I wanted to give what could possibly be my final thoughts. And I say could possibly be because there's a possibility that this individual could make a reappearance. He could, or he won't. We won't know. But to an extent, at this current time, there's no activity from Onision, especially when it comes to YouTube. There is one thing, but I'll bring that up in a second. But yeah, to an extent, if you go on any of his main channels, Onision Speaks, which was originally called Onision Speaks, Obro, and Archive, there is no activity for months. Hell, if anything, if you take a closer look, you realize that chunks of videos have either been privated or deleted. They're gone. Hell, for Onision, the last video was literally the 10 Ways to Kill Super Mario video, which was released 2 years ago. For the Speaks channel, I believe it was like 4 years, a 4-year gap. And this was an individual who would upload a video every day, discussing, or several videos, giving his thoughts on relationships and so on. But to an extent, there's nothing new from this individual. Now, there was apparently a report where, and by the way, this give quick thanks to Jacqueline Glenn and other commentators that have reported this, but there was a brief moment where apparently he was trying to create children-only content, but for the life of me, I couldn't find it. So there's a possibility that that particular content was taken down. But all in all, regardless of that, he's done. Currently, I should say. Because again, there's a possibility that this individual could make a reappearance. And honestly, let's take a look back, because to an extent, because I know I'm sure wherever Greg is now, I'm sure he'll probably blame the commentary community, blame Chris Hansen for ruining his life and so on. Which honestly, I play the smallest violin for him. But here's the bottom line, and this is just my final thoughts of this whole situation, or currently my final thoughts. Everything that has happened or has transpired that has caused him to basically shut down or reduce activity of his channels is all because of his own actions. Regardless of how much he wants to spin it that it's everybody else's fault, he did this to himself. With the videos that he created, a lot of them, especially when it comes down to discussing relationships or interactions with people, his ideals in politics, the variety of allegations he's made towards people, doxing, and a variety of other things that he's done, it has built up and it has followed him. And unfortunately, especially when it comes down to the internet doesn't forget. And there is a extensive record from a variety of creators that have showcased the type of behavior that Greg Jackson has committed to for years. And again, this is an individual who isn't or didn't seem like he was going to change. And he can blame us all he wants, but in reality, it was all on him. And myself and many others have given him the options, or at least, if anything, helped critique him, or critiqued him to an extent, of ways that he could change himself, or, for lack of a better word, better himself for both himself and his channel. But knowing Greg, or acknowledging, some of the behaviors displayed by Greg, he wasn't going to do that. This is an individual who always thought that he was in the right, that everybody else was wrong, and that if you didn't agree with him, then you were inferior. And to an extent, he basically built his own fire. If to using an analogy, he basically built his own pyre, and he's the one that lit it. He's the one that dug his own grave, I think, is probably a better analogy. And no matter how many times people have critiqued him, no matter how many times people have kind of given concern, he just kept on digging a deeper, and deeper hole, till eventually he was so deep he couldn't get out. That's Greg Jackson for you. An individual who, unfortunately, destroyed his own channel. Destroyed his own presence on YouTube. And in the end, as much as he wants to blame everybody, it is all on him. So, with that, for now, I'm laying this to rest. I'm done talking about him. This is an individual who was toxic from beginning to end. And honestly, it would have been interesting to be positive to an extent. It would have been interesting to see him actually take some of the criticism to heart. To see where he would have been at now. But at this point in time, due to what he's done to himself and his channels, we won't see that. Because, again, this is an individual who is both, I would want to say, malicious, manipulative, and to an extent, just demolished from anything involving YouTube. Especially when, both his name and his moniker are under the radar. But anyway, that's my final thoughts of this. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys have any thoughts, actually, if anything, you guys have any final thoughts of Onision himself, love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys can, also follow us on social media. Links are in the description down below, as well as follow our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob Novakast signing off. Have a good one. Take care. And I'll see you guys in the next video.